the opportunity and thinking about and creating the best day ever. Because it's up to you. And even if things are a little askew in your life right now, that doesn't mean that you can't create something wonderful about your experience. This month we're studying education. And education is great for me because that means I can tell you anything and I can be teaching you it. So, yes! And education is one of our core concepts. So every month this year we are exploring one of our core values, our core concepts, on what we base this center on. And education is what we do as part of our spiritual practice. I invite you to think about what it is that you are being educated in or that inspires you so that you may go out and expand and create yourself anew in ways that are unique and wonderful. I was learning about somebody who has a limitation. There's this guy, his name's Paul Hansen. I don't know if you've heard of him. He is a very famous artist. And Paul Hansen, when he was going to art school, he was studying pointillism. And pointillism is created by doing a lot of little tiny dots and making a large picture out of, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dots. And as he was doing this in art school, he started realizing that he was holding the pen really hard and he was trying to keep his hand still. And the harder he kept his hand still, the more his hand started shaking. So he developed a shake as he was trying to do this artwork. And he was very upset about it because it was permanent. He developed a permanent shake from doing pointillism. And you can't really do pointillism if you have a permanent shake. He went to the neurologist, and the neurologist told him that he could basically embrace the shake. He said there was nothing he could do about it. He was completely in a place where it wasn't fixable. And so he had this limitation. He had a permanent shake. And he was very upset about this. He was so upset that he couldn't do his artwork. And he thought about it, and he thought about it, and he thought, you know what? I am going to embrace the shake. And so he started doing, instead of pointillism, he started doing squiggles. And he did big squiggles everywhere, and he created this huge artwork with squiggles. And he got very famous in his squiggle artwork. And then he got very excited about it, and he started getting money in with doing his artwork, and he realized that he could create almost anything. So he bought new gear, he bought new art supplies, and he was sitting there one day with his art supplies, and he realized that the entire world was open to him, and he didn't know what to do. He had an artist block. He couldn't create. And he thought about this, and he thought, why could I create so well when I knew I had a limitation? And now that I'm feeling unlimited, I can't create. And so he decided to play a little game with himself. It was called a limitation game. He decided to limit himself to a certain thing. For instance, what if he created artwork by only spending $1? So he had to somehow find supplies that was only $1. He couldn't spend any more. And what he did is he had gone to Starbucks and he had bought his coffee, and he realized that Starbucks will give you a free cup if you ask them. And so he decided to ask them for 50 free cups. And they gave him 50 free cups. And he bought some pencils for $1. And then he created artwork on these cups. He had this big artwork display that he drew on the cups, and he created a huge face out of the cups. And then he thought, what if I created artwork by using only karate chops? So he karate chop things, or my feet. And then he did foot artwork. And he realized that by having a limitation, he was recognizing that he was unlimited. And so I'd like to invite you to think about something in your life that's limiting you. And there is a space on your bulletin that you can write something down. So just take a moment and think about one thing in your life that is currently limiting you. And it might be an idea. It might be a thought. And write it down. Think about some limitation in your life. Okay, now once you have that limitation, I'd like you to think about something that you could do that could be created out of your limitation. For instance, I talked about Amy Mullins a couple Sundays ago, and Amy had been born without, she had to have her legs amputated at the knee. And she realized that when the doctor told her that she couldn't be independent, that she wasn't going to take that. She was going to utilize her limitation to her advantage. And she's the one who had created for her the cheetah legs so she could run in races. And she also had created for her legs of different heights so she could be any size, any tallness she wanted to be. So she utilized her limitation and made something out of it. And I'd like you to think about one step, one thing that you could do that could utilize this limitation to your advantage. So write that down. Write down one step. All right, do you all have your one step now? Okay, what I'd like you to do is turn to somebody and tell them the thing that is your step out of, or your creative opportunity in the limitation. So tell somebody next to you, what is your creative opportunity in the limitation? All right, so we're going to bring it back over here. So thank you for sharing. Be sure to acknowledge your partner or the person you shared with. Yeah. And be willing to step out and participate. There are ways in my life that I recognize that my limitations have created opportunities for me. I've recognized from simple things like the gas going up and I don't want to pay that much, so I start using public transportation, to having no musician and witnessing what is co-created out of that. And I realized that the truth of our being is that we are unlimited. But acknowledging the unlimitedness of God sometimes is a little overwhelming. And when we acknowledge our limitations and open up to the ideas on how that creates an unlimited future for us, then we are really opening ourselves up to our humanity combined with our spirituality. So we live in a physical universe, and our physicalness is limited to our thoughts and our beliefs. And we can choose to utilize this experience of being physical to our advantage in our life. And we have the choice of our own thoughts, ideas, and creativity. And so I'd like to recognize each and every one of you for being willing to think inside the box, for using your limitations to create something in your life, because you're already limited. And so you're embracing the shape, right? You're embracing it and using it to your advantage. Sometimes limitations are deeper than that, though. Sometimes limitations are feelings of anger and resentment. And these are things that we choose to make us limited when we don't have to. Oftentimes, I'm going around life, and I'm like, oh, my ex, cheated on me, and I have, my father passed away, and, I lost my job, and then I have all this baggage that I'm carrying around with me, and it's so much baggage. And I'm going to tell you, my life sucks so bad because I have all this baggage. It's just so terrible. And the truth of the matter is, that I can choose to let my baggage go and release it and really feel on how I can create an unlimited experience and not letting certain limitations be in my life. I went to a Silmar this last week, and there was a man there who was very inspirational to me. His name is Azim Kamisa. Azim Kamisa was, he's a father of 2 children. And one of his children was 20 years old and a pizza delivery driver in San Diego, going to San Diego State University. And he was delivering a pizza, and he had opened his door, and a gang of 14 to 18-year-old kids were doing their gang initiation. And so one of the kids, a 14-year-old boy, shot his son, Tariq. Oh. And his son died. So Azim was torn about this whole experience, as I'm imagining many of you would feel the same. And what he recognized is that Tariq wasn't the only victim in this experience. He recognized that the boy who pulled the trigger was also a victim of society. And he realized that we are all members of society, and he's a member of society. And if he didn't step in to make a difference, then he was part of creating that same society that killed his son. And he decided to do something that we often don't try and do ourselves: forgive. And we may have this baggage of, so-and-so cheated on me, or so-and-so harmed me, or so-and-so did this to me. And we're carrying it around, and we're using it as part of our life story, instead of finding ways to forgive and utilize that experience as a reason for our own transformation and our own life expression. Forgiveness has all of these myths going on with it. That you can forgive and forget. Or if you forgive, then it removes the consequences of the actions. Or forgiveness is a quick fix. Or if you forgive, it's as if it never really happened. Or forgiveness is a sign of weakness. Perhaps you think forgiveness is excusing the behavior. Oftentimes, that whenever you're committing to forgive, you're removing that continuing cycle of violence within yourself. Is there somebody in your life, maybe, that you haven't forgiven yet? And maybe you're using them as an excuse to be really limited, instead of as an excuse to use that limitation, that experience, as your transformation. Azim goes around to schools, and he's been doing this for 18 years, and he teaches kids about violence and what violence does to people, because he's experienced it on a deep and profound level. And he invited Tony's the name of the boy who shot his son. He invited Tony's grandfather to come talk about this, because Azim's friend, the grandfather of Tony, also lost a child. He lost a grandchild. Tony got tried in jail. He was 14. He got tried for murdering. He got tried as an adult, and he got 25 years in prison. He's currently in prison. The event happened in 1995. It's been 18 years since this event happened. And the two of them have gone to schools all across the country and talked to children, to teenagers, about what it means to forgive and how to step into our life without violence. How to not only be violent in our actions, but in our thoughts, our words, and our deeds. And if he can do that when his son was murdered, I wonder what we can do. I wonder what I can do, and I wonder what you can do. This is a community of intentional people who are committed to creating a world that works for everyone. And if you're committed to creating a world that works for everyone, as I am, and I'm going to say that you are because you walked into this building and something resonated with you, then that means you're committed to shifting things in your own life so that you can forgive those who have harmed you, so that you can use your limitations as an excuse for you to be creative in this world. Forgiveness is sometimes not easy, but it does have some easy steps to it. The first step to forgiving somebody else is by feeling the pain of being hurt. That's the first step. And having a time limit on it. So you're going to feel the pain, you're going to have a time limit on it. That means if I say, I am going to carry this bag around for a week, and I'm going to feel how heavy it is, I'm just going to do that. And so you give yourself a time limit. Once you're done, you have witnessed your statute of limitations, and you cannot complain or grieve about it anymore. The second step to forgiveness is to give up your resentment and develop your empathy. Think about what it could have created in that person to have done that thing to you. Where are they coming from where they were harmed, where they had to feel like they needed to harm another person? And the third thing to forgiveness is to reach out to others and maybe that person with love and compassion. This might be easy, except what about forgiving yourself? What if you're the person who committed the action? And you have this baggage going around with you because you realize that you did something, that you harmed somebody else. The first step to that is to take responsibility for your own actions. The second thing is to ask for forgiveness from that person. The third thing is to forgive yourself. And the fourth step is to redeem yourself. And what that means is you don't do the same action and you make sure that others do not follow in your footsteps. Azim has invited Tony to be a part of his organization, the Tariq Foundation, when he gets out of jail. He's offered him a job. He went to jail and he told him that not only does he forgive this young man, but he also wants him to be a part of the catalyst and the change in the world. I don't know about you, but it's huge. It's completely inspirational. That's the kind of world that I want to live in. That's the kind of people I want to hang around with. And that's a community that is right here and right now. And so I invite you to think about what you can do to get rid of your baggage and to not let it limit you anymore. What can you do to embrace your own limitations as a source of creativity? And how can you step out into the world to make a difference that is beyond just the one person yourself, but is in the larger community?